Michael had been driving for hours down a lonely stretch of highway, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. His gas tank was nearly empty, and the only sign of civilization for miles was a rundown motel with a flickering neon sign that read vacancy. It wasn't his first choice, but he had no other options. The receptionist, an older man with tired eyes, slid the room key across the counter without a word. Michael glanced at the keychain. Room 209. Something about the room felt off. The air was thick with humidity and an odd metallic scent. The carpet was stained near the bed, and the flickering light overhead cast unsettling shadows. But fatigue won over suspicion, and Michael collapsed onto the bed, barely bothering to pull the covers over himself. Sometime after midnight, a sound woke him, a faint whisper. "Get out." Michael bolted upright, his pulse pounding. He strained his ears, but all he could hear was the hum of the air conditioner. Shaking it off, he rolled over to check the time. 3:07 a.m. Then the TV suddenly turned on. The screen was filled with static. Annoyed, he grabbed the remote and turned it off, only for a knock to sound at the door. His stomach twisted. Who would be knocking at this hour? Michael hesitated, then got up and peeked through the peephole. His breath hitched. He saw himself standing outside the door. His exact reflection, same jacket, same tired eyes, just standing there, staring at the door. A cold dread crawled up his spine. Suddenly, the door handle began to turn. Michael stumbled backward. He reached for his phone to call the front desk, but there was no signal. The lights flickered, the whispering returned, and then, bang, the door shuddered violently. Something wandered in. Michael grabbed the chair from the corner and wedged it under the doorknob. He pressed himself against the wall, heart hammering. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the noises stopped. Silence. Cautiously, he approached the door. It was now slightly ajar. Terror gripped him. He hadn't touched it. That was enough. He grabbed his keys and bolted from the room, not even bothering to grab his bag. As he burst into the lobby, the old receptionist looked up from his newspaper with an almost bored expression. "You saw him, didn't you?" he muttered. Michael swallowed hard. What the hell was that? The man sighed, glancing at the motel's ancient clock. "No one stays in room 209 for long. Consider yourself lucky." Michael didn't wait for an explanation. He jumped into his car and sped away, never looking back. Like and subscribe now. Are you brave enough to join the hunt? Lisa had been working at Clearwater Motel for almost 6 months, pulling long night shifts at the front desk. The pay was terrible, the guests were weird, and the place always felt wrong. But the worst part, the hallway behind the laundry room. It led to a single unmarked door. No guests stayed there, and as far as she knew, it hadn't been used in years. Yet strange sounds always came from that corridor. Faint shuffling, soft knocks. Sometimes she could swear she heard whispering. One night, curiosity got the better of her. With the motel nearly empty, she grabbed a flashlight and made her way down the dim hallway. The closer she got, the heavier the air felt. She reached the door, hesitated. Then she pressed her hand against it. It swung open, on its own. Inside was a room coated in dust. A single chair faced the wall, and an old motel uniform, identical to hers, hung from a rusted hook. The air smelled stale, like something forgotten. Lisa's stomach twisted. Someone had been here, recently. Then she heard it, a breath. She turned sharply, but the door slammed shut. She gasped and ran to it, yanking the handle. Locked. The room suddenly felt smaller, suffocating. Then from the darkness, something moved. A shape lurked in the corner, barely visible in the dim light. Lisa's heart pounded as it stepped forward, and when it did, her scream died in her throat. It was her. The same uniform, the same hair. But her reflection's face was twisted in an unnatural grin. The doppelganger cocked its head, eyes filled with something unreadable. Then it whispered, voice dripping with malice, "It's my turn now." Pain exploded in Lisa's skull. The world tilted and darkness swallowed her. She woke up in the motel lobby. Her boss was shaking her. "Lisa, where the hell have you been?" Her head pounded. She blinked in confusion. I was in the back room." Her boss frowned. "What back room?" Lisa turned toward the hallway. The door was gone, like it had never existed.